I'm telling you, it's a pillar. Are you insane? It's a rope. Both of you are wrong. It's a wall. Each of the three men were convinced beyond a shadow of a doubt that they were correct. They may have been blind, but they had learned their way by using touch and sound. The first blind man had felt a large cylindrical shape that was identical to the pillars at the temple where his family would worship when he was a young boy. The second man felt the flexible, thin material that was just like the ropes his father had used when creating his fishing nets. The third man felt that massive, immobile structure that was just like the wall he would lean against at the open-air market, where he would sit every day and listen to the hustle and bustle of people as they went about their day. Each man trusted their senses and relied on their past experiences to tell them what exactly was in front of them. None of them realized that they had encountered a very small part of something bigger. Now, I want you to imagine you have no idea what an elephant is. Try to get the idea of elephant out of your mind. All right? You've never seen one. You've never been to the zoo. You've never seen National Geographic. You have no concept of elephant. They're pretty fantastical creatures if you've never seen one before. What other creature has this long trunk-like nose? Aardvarks, kind of, maybe? All right. What about those huge wavy ears? You don't see that very often in nature. And the size alone, these are impressive, fantastical creatures. So you've got no idea of what an elephant is, and you encounter one for the first time without warning. All right? Nobody tells you, by the way, this thing's about 9 feet tall, 20 feet long, and 6,000 pounds. All right? This is just you, an elephant, your sense of touch, sound, and smell. Let us not taste the elephant. Okay. What are your senses telling you about this creature? The man who wrapped his arm around that leg of the elephant, what did his senses tell him about that leg? It's round. It's cylindrical. It's unyielding. It's rough. It's vertical. Are any of these senses wrong? No. There is a lot of empirical evidence that tells this man he has just encountered a pillar. This is what his senses have told him. Why would we doubt our senses? They get us through life every day. It's the only way we have to be in relationship with the world around us. So how do these senses then, when they have trouble encountering something fantastical like an elephant, how do they encounter something like the spirit of life? That ultimate source, that which holds all. How do we encounter that? We can see the actions produced by these things. We can hear words of comfort that others may offer. We can feel a supportive hand upon our back. But do any of these sensory observations on their own tell us the whole story of the divine? Or are they just the smallest observations of something bigger? Now, my senior year of high school, I had a religion class. This was not a public school, this was a Catholic school. Yes, I'm fine. The priest, yes, a priest, made the argument that there must be a God in this class because every civilization on earth has a concept of supreme being. Now, what are the odds of everybody all coming up with this story at some point in time? Now, 17-year-old me had no problem believing this theory. It sounded pretty good to me. Now, I couldn't think of any major civilizations that didn't have a supreme being, and this was before Google. I am that old, so I couldn't go look it up. But it made a lot of sense to me. Now, I did know, however, that there were some major differences between Christianity and, let's say, Buddhism. I mean, I was in a Catholic high school and I was Lutheran and gone through Lutheran catechism. I knew that there were major differences between the Catholics and the Lutherans, let alone something as big as the Buddhists and the Christians. So of all of these world religions, if they all come from the same source, why are they so different? So let's go back to our elephant in the room. Each of these men who experienced that elephant, each one came from a different background. Each of these men brought their own history, their own perceptions, their own lives into the encounter with the elephant. When confronted with something fantastical and foreign, their instinct, make it familiar. The pillar at the temple, the wall at the market, the fishing nets. We humans are a meaning-seeking people. We use our past experiences to try to make that meaning. And since each of us comes with a different background, a different history, a different way of seeing, when we encounter that divine impulse, we will try to make it understandable by couching it in a familiar framework. 18th century theologian Friedrich Schleiermacher called that divine impulse that makes people feel connected to something larger than themselves the intuition of the universe. Doesn't that just sound delicious? It was his belief that we conceive that intuition of the universe according to our own nature. So our vision of the divine is directly related to the world in which we are immersed. So it's that divine impulse, that intuition of the universe, that touched Gautama Buddha. And as a young man, when he went out into that market and saw suffering for the first time in the streets of his city, that intuition of the universe led him to leave that life of prosperity to seek nirvana. When Moses saw that his people were being held in slavery while they lived under Pharaoh's roof, the intuition of the universe moved him to free his people. When Jesus told people that loving your neighbor was not enough, that you needed to love your enemy, that was the intuition of the universe at work. Einstein, his theory of relativity. Emerson, his return to nature. Dr. King's nonviolent protest. All of these reactions to something that was so much larger than one person, all grounded in the history that these people knew, and all ways of interpreting that intuition of the universe. So what about you? Have you been touched by the intuition of the universe? Maybe you gaze at the stars at night and you get lost in the vastness, thinking of your size in comparison to it all. Maybe you marvel at how joyful and quick to love a small child can be and wonder what that full capacity to love really, really is. Maybe you are struck by the wisdom of an elder and think of how long information goes back and where we have been and where we have come from. Maybe you are struck 1,000 times in a day by small moments of wonder and joy and heartache. And they constantly challenge you to question, what is the divine? I imagine it being like that blind man, that intuition of the universe, and going up that leg, and then all of a sudden, where it connects to the body, having everything challenged, you know, oh my God, definitely a pillar, definitely a pillar, definitely, that is a low ceiling. Oftentimes, that intuition of the universe, those ideas become challenged. And that's where you have to stop and rethink, question again. The essence of spirituality is connecting to something that is larger than ourselves, something that connects us all in a global family, the beloved community, the kinship of humanity. All the people that I listed earlier, Emerson, King, they all felt something that was so much larger than themselves, like those blind men, feeling their way around and trying to make meaning from that deep experience. Their culture shaped what they believed, and just like the pillar and the blind man's temple, it shaped their opinion to what was that elephant. But let me ask you this, just like I asked the children. Is that elephant a pillar? Is it a wall? Is it really a net? Well, according to the blind men, it is. Because that's just their world view that shaped their perception. But if they want to truly see the elephant, what needs to change? Their worldview. What if we were to take that gentleman, that blind man who saw those pillars, who felt those pillars, and brought him with the one who felt the wall? What if they talked to each other? What if they described what they encountered and worked together and connected, quite literally, their perceptions? What if they took time to understand the commonalities between them and accept the differences as being true for the individual, but not the whole? On his speech on the essence of religion, Schleiermacher says, each person must be conscious that his religion is only part of the whole. That regarding the same objects that affect them religiously, that there are views just as pious and nevertheless completely different from their own. And that from other religious institutions flow the sense for which they may be completely lacking. If all of humanity has indeed been touched by the intuition of the universe, something immense and so much larger than ourselves, chances are we lack the senses to perceive it completely on our own, as an individual. None of us is more right than any other in our perception of the divine. We are all equally blind in this matter. But what if we all get together and talk? What if we started talking about the intuition of the universe? Maybe we could start to get a better picture of it. Sounds pretty easy, right? So I'll talk about how we encounter the divine, and when we hear different ideas, surely we won't fight or start a war about it. It's never happened before. When it comes to how we experience the divine, it's steeped in our own worldview. And so when our view of the divine is challenged, ourselves, our worldview, feels like it is challenged as well. In order to truly begin to understand that elephant in the room, we have to start listening deeply to where other views come from. I have a half-sister who has a very, very deep faith in a Christian denomination with a verbal plenary view of the Bible. Do you know what that means? Literal interpretation. The world created in 7 days. The earth is 6,000 years old. That's not even close to where I am on the Bible. I think the Bible is a great source of inspiration and metaphorical. But theologically, you wouldn't think the two of us would make very good friends, would you? But we both believe that there's a force of love out there. We both believe that this world needs help to become a better place. She believes in the Christian idea of God, and I think it's something bigger. But when we get together, we don't debate the differences. We talk about how we build community in our separate congregations. We talk about how we help those in need in our area. We talk about how that divine intuition, which she calls God, which I call everything else, how that calls us to be better in this world. We could so easily pick apart each other's theology, but instead we find beauty in each other's beliefs. You could say that my sister sees a pillar, and I see a wall. But instead of proving to each other how the elephant is not how the other imagines it, we talk about what we have encountered, and we listen. We, as Unitarian Universalists, we are a spiritual community. We are part of a faith that throughout history critiques and examines sacred texts and theologies. Unitarian Universalists have a history of critically examining what this connection to the divine is all about. Who is the authority? Where is the source? What is the message? We are seekers. We love asking deep questions. Each one of you here is a source of the ultimate. Each one of you here carries that unique perspective and worldview that everyone else needs to hear. So how many of us talk to each other about that elephant in the room? Religion and spirituality, it is so deeply personal and divisive that many people can be scared to bring it up, even in friendly community. While it is great to have our humanist groups and our Christian groups and our pagan groups and Islamic groups all within our congregations that go into deep conversation on their own theologies, we need to go deep with those who think different. We need the humanists to go visit the Islamists. We need the Christians to go visit the pagans. It's the only way to try and understand that elephant as a whole. So I just gave you another committee to make right now. Okay, maybe not a committee. But maybe during coffee hour. Maybe instead of asking someone, so, how's your garden doing? What are you doing this week? How are the kids? Maybe you could ask them, so, how do you perceive the elephant, God, the intuition of the universe? What makes you feel awe? What makes you feel connected to something larger than yourself? Go deep with each other. Ask why, and listen. Listen closely to what your fellow seekers say about their journey. Don't forget, this goes beyond these walls too. Don't forget to ask people outside of your congregations some of these questions as well. Because in order to better understand that divine intuition, you have to better understand everybody in this world. It does not discriminate. The divine touches all. And when we start to find more and more commonality, when we listen with love and seek to understand the other point of view, when our worldview begins to expand, we get a better understanding of the elephant in the room. May it be so.